Hey everyone, welcome. I hope this video finds you well, finds you supported, and yeah, I want to talk about this because I realized, especially this week, about a week after the eclipses, and again, I don't follow astrology. So I don't really know all the ins and outs. There are phenomenal astrologers that I'm friends with, that I know, that I don't know, but I follow. Like there are people who really do this work and do it so well, and so profoundly beautiful. And but what I do know is what's going on in my body. And I think a lot of us can sense and feel that, especially if we are sensitive and we just feel things. So that really is my testing of what's going on around me is what is my body doing? What are my emotions doing? And what's happening in my world and outside of my world, right? The greater world at large. So I've been noticing that so much has been coming up for so many, all of my clients that I work with. And for those of you who don't know and you haven't watched videos of me yet, maybe I should do an intro. I'm just coming out here, I'm winging it. But if you don't know me, I'm a psychic medium and a death guide and also a spiritual mentor. And really all that means is that I am a translator for spirits on the other side. And I also am with people helping them process and support them in their own death and dying process. Some that are close to death, some that are not so close to death, some that are pretty far away but are terrified of what it is to die. And because of what I've seen on the other side, and because of my own near death experience from severe chronic illness, I'm not afraid. My body doesn't want to die, but I'm not afraid. So I can really help others and guide them in that place and hang there and see what else lies beyond the fear. So, and I do a lot of other things underneath that. I do one-to-one spiritual coaching. I do live readings. I do private readings. I do group readings. And things are kind of growing and expanding even now, far beyond anything I could have imagined. So, yeah, my pronouns are they, he. And this is a continuation of a podcast that is still on Spotify called the Sovereign Spirit Medium Podcast, with a chock full of 50 plus episodes over the course of a year or two. I can't remember. And now we're here on YouTube. So welcome. If you followed all the way until Spotify into this video, thank you for following. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Everything that people do and interact with in this channel really supports the channel in getting bigger and also lets me know you want more. If I don't hear anything, I'm like, well, no, it's not needed. And y'all know me, if you followed me for a long time, that if it's not needed, I don't do it. I'm done with it. I end it. It dies. So I'm always listening to what is most important for the collective field. And that is also what keeps me in integrity with the work that I do and holds me accountable to always pivoting to what is emerging in the group field. And actually that ties right into, I did not plan this, but that ties right into, what it is to pivot. What does that actually mean? The first time that I heard pivot and emergence was, shout out to Adrienne Marie Brown. I think was on maybe in her book Pleasure Activism. I've read all of her books. If you don't know who Adrienne Marie Brown is, you gotta go get educated. I'm sorry, but like you gotta go get educated. She's amazing. She is a queer Black writer, doula extraordinaire, and her work has deeply impacted my life. She's also a real ass human and shares incredibly vulnerable pieces of her literature, but also her podcast. And yeah, just powerful. So I first heard about what it is to pivot in that time, and not accidentally, but also like, how did this happen? In 2020 is when I came across her work. So I was severely ill. I was bedridden. I was trying to find pleasure where I could, but I was really struggling. And honestly, that whole year of 2020, which, was the intensity of, it felt like the climate collapse had been happening, but it was just blown open. Racism was blown open. Socioeconomic, just fall down was happening. Everything that was there was just coming to the surface. And I was also fighting for my life. I was really trying to hang on by like threads at that point with my health. And it became really hard. And that time, although it was extremely difficult and there were many moments I didn't even want to live anymore, I learned a really powerful skill. And that skill was the art of pivoting, the art of being like water and moving and adjusting to whatever is emerging on the landscape internally or externally. So, what does that mean? What does that look like? Lots of different things. Before 2020, I was very much a regimented, unrelenting, double cap, enough said, being. And when things didn't go my way, I really freaked out. I really had a meltdown. I really couldn't see any other possible way besides the one thing that I wanted to do. And in that way, I lived in such a limited box. I really couldn't see outside of it. And it's okay. Like, that's where I was. That's what I thought all there was. Even though deep down I knew like there's got to be another way to be with this, but I don't really know how. And I haven't been shown the tools in how. And then fast forward, my chronic illness came and was like, we'll show you the tools. Because you're going to need them to survive. And I was just like, wow, okay. And every day was a new thing to deal with my body when I was sick in 2020. And I had to constantly pivot, adjust, pivot, adjust. And whatever was emerging at that moment took priority. And at that time, I didn't really have a choice because the things that were happening were so big in my body and so scary. There was actually nothing else I could focus on besides what was happening in my body. So in that way, I felt the intensity of what it is to pivot. And it wasn't until now, fast forward 4 years later, my health is astounding. I've recovered 100% almost from my chronic illness. And now my body is, I just call it, I have a sensitive body. I have a sensitive body. I've always had a sensitive body. I just I don't have a consistent energetic illness running through it. And that is how I can best describe it. So now what I've learned in 2020, I have been put to the test and I have been asked to now, okay, do this in the real world when you have full health, right? And it might seem like, well, that's easy. I'm like healthy and strong and feeling good. And actually, it is where the real work has begun for me. And it has asked me to consistently and constantly die to what I think I know, who I think I am, what I think I should do, who I am being, who I thought I was, all of these things that I'm consistently being present with, and then pivoting and going somewhere else, right? So this shows up in many ways. And if you've worked with me one-to-one or done groups or workshops or had a reading with me, you know that I will reschedule, not once, not twice, sometimes 3 times. If something is emerging in the field, in my life, in my world, or in the collective, because I am fully attuned to what's happening with it. I cannot not be. That is my role. That's what makes me so good at what I do. right? But the catch is really interesting here. And this is where it feels so important to talk about, because this is where the shame and the guilt comes in from a societal level. So my gift requires me to be a live wire, if you will. I remember actually when I was in, I did acting way before I was sick. And like now we're going on probably like 11, 12 years ago in LA. And my acting teacher, I still remember his name, Chris Levy. Chris Levy and Tony Savant. I don't know how I remember that, but they were my two teachers. They were incredible acting teachers. And they would just say, you're like a live wire. Like you just feel everything. Like the way someone moves or coughs or talks or gestures, you just like, you can feel and sense something that they're not saying. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. And it didn't really pan out in acting. It didn't feel aligned that that was what I was going to do ultimately. So I've always been a live wire. I've always been sensitive, right? And that sensitivity is my gift. It's not the so much the production of what it gives out or what it produces, right? That's living in our 3D world more. If we go and suspend to another dimension, say like the 5D, it's that I'm a feeler. I am a feeler. And I also, in that way, am a healer. I'm a feeler, I'm a healer. It's like very simple, right? And so in that, it's astounding. It's beautiful. I get to share my gift and help people heal their grief, heal their pain, heal from having their questions that they had about how someone died, usually tragically or unexpectedly, or with so many question marks around it. They can get relief, they can get peace, they can get love, they can have a conversation with them. And I'm so honored to do that, right? Like, it just feels like, what? This is my job? Like, this is wild, right? And there's a side to that that means I still am like that in my everyday life. I still will be with what's happening on a global level. If we're talking a war, which is pertinent to right now, right? Israeli, Palestinian people, all these things happening right now are just heartbreaking. And I'm not going to get into it this moment because it requires so much space holding. It really, really does. And there are so many other things, right? The climate collapsing, disasters happening unexpectedly, people's fires coming through towns now and displacing hundreds and thousands of people all across America, all across the US, all across the globe, right? For me, these things are part of me. They are not separate. I am not separate from them, right? And it's so hard to articulate because it's not coming from this idea, right? We can say the idea of like we're all connected, but the truth is that when we feel the connection to something outside of ourselves so intensely, we know. We don't actually even have to say it. We know what that feeling is. It's just merging. It's just you are mine and I am yours, and we feel each other. Whether that's animal, plant, nature beings, elemental beings, everything is alive, including us. Right? So of course we would be live wires to everything that is happening, even when it's worlds away. We can feel that. That's why we feel literally, y'all, think about this. Astrology, right? If we like zoom out, I asked someone one time, like, okay, what is astrology? Like, what does it actually mean? And essentially, astrology is us picking up what's happening in the cosmos. What's happening with the planets and the moon and the sun and the stars, right? If we can feel the impacts of that on our bodies and our nervous systems and our emotions, of course we can feel everything that's literally here, which has even more energetic vibration to it because it's so close to us. It's here in this contained globe floating in space, right? Like, it's just kind of wild, right? So if you can feel that, there's a lot going on here that you're probably feeling that you don't even know that you're feeling or why you're feeling it, right? So I bring that in to say part of my gifts is really picking up on everything that's happening. And in that way, that means that I don't fit into society's structure of schedule or dates or this or that. And actually, it works out perfectly, right? So, for instance, again, if you worked with me, you know that if I hear something in the collective, we're rescheduling. If something is happening in my world, we're rescheduling. If something is saying, not now, this is not a good time, wait, I'm listening and we're rescheduling. In the beginning, in the first year that I did this, I had so much guilt and shame. I was like, oh my gosh, I probably look flaky. I probably look like I don't know what I'm doing. I probably look all these things. And I actually got people who were like upset at me for not giving them a reading. And I like gladly gave them their money back because I was like, it's not about the money, y'all. Like the money takes care of my body for what a reading does to it afterwards. That's what the money does. It gives me nutrients, food, and sustains my life so I can keep giving my life force to others so that they can receive healing. That's what it's there for, right? And so yeah, so when we think about that, it's like I used to feel so bad about it, right? I used to feel so guilty for that. And I don't anymore. It is what it is. And actually, when we say, no, I don't have capacity for that, or no, that's not happening today, or this isn't the right time, just feels off to me, we're also deeply living in our integrity. We are deeply, deeply listening to all that is. And we are trusting beyond belief what we feel, what we sense, what we know is going on, even if we don't understand it. Right? And that skill is something where when you see someone leading in that way, it is unexplainable, right? I think of MLK when he led that march over the bridge. I forget the name of that bridge. You can put it down below. It's like Pettius, something. I actually walked over that bridge. It's a powerful feeling. He was going to lead people over that bridge, and he said, not today. He said, he got down on his knees. People said it looked like he was talking to God. And he said, it's not the day. It's not the day. And they were all mad. They weren't just upset. They were angry because they were ready to fight. They had guns. They had things to take people down. They were prepared. They were like a militia. They were really protecting themselves and their people. And they were angry. And he said, it's not today. It's not going to go well if we continue on. It's not going to go well. And so when they withdrew and went back, everyone was mad at him. Everyone was upset. Everyone was like, you're not a leader. Please, you don't even care about us. You just, and he just took it. He just took it and said, I just trust. I just trust. I have faith. And they went back the next day and they were able to go across. And what they didn't know was that prior to that, the day that he had them turn around, is that they had all of these clan members and all of these people with guns and weapons waiting for them. Like they all would have been killed, essentially. But because they stopped, waited, pivoted to what was emerging, and he turned around and took everyone with him, he saved their lives. Now that is an incredible story, right? And we can see that that's just one person, Martin Luther King. There are many examples of spiritual leaders who made decisions and pivoted, and people were like, what are you doing? Right? But when we do that, we are trusting something so much bigger than ourselves. And we're also healing and repairing the trust in our spirit. the trust that sometimes has been taken away from us, from violence, from parents who weren't there, from experiences we've had with saying how we actually felt or what we thought should happen and being doubted. So, this invitation is to call that back for yourself, to see when you're in situations where you're supposed to show up, right? This capitalism wheel is intense, y'all. It's so insidious that even when you work for yourself, which I know all about this, even when you work for yourself and you're an entrepreneur or you're a business person or you're freelance or whatever you do, it's still there ingrained and will make you work in the same way that you were trying to get away from. We call that brainwashing, right? It's intense. So the opportunity becomes, how much can you actually pivot to what is emerging at every moment of every day? And that's going to look like different things for different folks. Maybe it's saying, no, I can't do that. I don't have capacity. I thought I did. Turns out I don't. Or actually, yeah, I do have capacity. I didn't think I was going to, but I do have time to hear you. Yeah, I'd love to listen, right? It's a powerful thing when we can be wonderfully inconsistent. Because in our inconsistent, we're being real to what is actually emerging. And we're honoring it. And we're also honoring ourself and the energy we have to be with it at that moment or not. But that radical honesty will transform your life. I can't tell you how much grace I have for my friends, for my partner, for even strangers. You know, if something comes up, I'm like, okay, great, no problem. I trust it. I trust it. Right? I don't get mad. I don't get upset. Even if I'm really looking forward to it, I'm like, something else is at hand. Something else is at hand. I just know it. So I invite you to lean into that trust. What would it be like to trust yourself just 10% more in the choices and the decisions, in your no's, in your yeses, in your I need more time? All of that. What would it be like to actually have a little counsel with yourself first, right? And actually seeing, what can I do? Can I do that today? Can I actually show up for that? One thing I've learned as a psychic medium is that my energy levels are finite. They go and then they have to be refilled back up. And if I do a reading, they have to be refilled like 3 times as much as I normally would just being a human walking around. Right? And if the reading is really intense and has a lot of trauma, I might be out for days. Because what's needed is a healing that is much more than just what I can bring, but all of these currents that are coming through me for this other person, and sometimes for the spirit on the other side. So, in that way, I might need to shift something. I might need to reschedule. I might need to take care of what is happening literally in this moment, right? And you don't ever have to apologize for what is now happening in this moment. Never. Systems that be will have you think that. Never needed. Never needed. As Sonia Renee Taylor says so eloquently, you are not an apology. Your body is not an apology. Your life is an apology. Your limits and capacities are not an apology. No. Because you are showing us the way to love you. And you're also letting us know that when you say, yes, I can do that. We trust you because your no's are so clear and consistent, right? Sending you all lots of love, lots of care. I can't wait to continue on with you all in this way. Take care of yourself. There's a lot going on right now in the energy field after eclipse season. I just hope you feel supported. I hope you know that there is so much more and so many beings supporting and surrounding you in this time. And I'll see you on the other side.